What's up, guys? So today on the podcast, we have who I consider one of the greats of jiu-jitsu, Dean Lister. He should be. I don't know why I said it that way. Like, I consider it. He is, a monster in the ADCC championships. He's won it before. He's had a really cool career in jiu-jitsu. He is a high-level grappler who is known for his leg locks, mostly, obviously, because he was doing them way before they were cool, right? He was doing leg locks way back in the day before it was the thing to do. So, again, I was really excited to have him on the podcast, and I hope you guys enjoy it. We talk about in this podcast, just to kind of give you a heads up, we talk about everything from his beginnings in jiu-jitsu and doing Sambo, and then getting into the mindset of a competitor, the mindset of a submission fighter, someone who has anywhere from a 50 to 75 to 100% submission rate when he competes. We talk about all that stuff, and again, hopefully you guys enjoy this podcast. As always, the podcast is brought to you by Charlotte's Web. They are the CBD company that Eugene and I have paired up with the podcast to bring to you guys. And again, we did so because, for me personally, it's been my favorite company out of all the different stuff that I've tried. They've been the one that I've really settled down with because, again, I really like CBD. The benefits have been huge as far as the way that my body feels personally. When I get done training, I notice a huge difference in my level of recovery, my level of soreness, and my sleep when I'm on CBD versus when I'm off of it. And I've tested it. I've gone on and off just to kind of see if it's me just kind of like being the placebo person. But I definitely notice a difference. Even my girlfriend, I noticed like when she was having trouble sleeping for a couple nights in a row. She's like, man, I'm having trouble sleeping. And I asked her, like, have you been taking your CBD? And she's like, no. I'm like, oh, well, that might be it. And she starts taking it again. And again, lo and behold, she sleeps a little bit better. So again, everybody's a little different. So it may have the same effect for you. It may not. But I would encourage you, if it's something that you've been thinking about, because again, I know that the first time I ever got on CBD, I thought it was all snake oil. I was like, there's so many claims. It's like, it does all this stuff and you got to get it. And I'm like, okay, man, whatever you say. And then I tried it and it made me a believer. So again, give it a try. You can use whatever CBD you like. I would just encourage you to make sure you're getting it from a reputable company instead of like gas station CBD stuff, because it's unregulated. So you could be getting good stuff or you could be getting some junk. And I know that Charlotte's Web is a high quality product. And so whatever they say is in there, that's exactly what's in there. It's third party tested. So check them out, charlottesweb.com. And the promo code is Chewjitsu. Save 15% on the order. And then also brought to you by Epic Roll, epicrollbjj.com. Buddy Matt, he's getting ready to release the Urban Legend. So again, that's the t-shirt that originally came out with like all the crazy stuff on it with like the UFO and Sasquatch and everything going on there. I'm hoping I get one of those rash guards because I want to wear one on the YouTube channel during one of the rolling sessions. But it's a cool thing, and he's got some shorts coming out as well as some pink hoodies for the ladies. Pink hoodies?
I want a pink hoodie.
Pink hoodie?
I'll take one.
Yeah, you look good in pink.
I do.
I used to wear pink sometimes.
Yeah. Remember Ben Fowler would had a pink rash guard, and he would always compete in that thing.
Fun story. Yeah, he bit one of my students one time. My favorite. I was actually reffing the match, which it sounds like it would be a conflict of interest. It's honestly worse for it's actually worse for them. Like I reffed one of Ben's matches in Ohio, and I could have given him the points, but I chose not to. Because like he was sloppy during his win, and so like at the very end he just barely did something, and I could have given him the points. It would have been okay, but I chose not to. And I remember I grilled him. I was like, "Why did I not give you the points?" He was like, "Yeah, this because of this." But but Ben came to the tournament one time and he was wearing a pink rash guard, and I'm reffing the match, and I heard his opponent in their team being like, "Dude, you're gonna beat the hell out of this guy. Look at him in his stupid pink rash guard or whatever." And then Ben goes out there and he ragdolls the whole division and takes first place.
Triangled probably everybody. Smoked.
He was doing a lot of Kimuras.
Oh, was he?
Yeah. But going back to it, Matt has some cool rash guards on for sale, as well as just the normal gear. I encourage people to just check it out, right? Like, again, one of the things for me is I'm kind of one of those people. I don't know about you. I don't like a lot of, like, craziness in the sense of, like, ultra aggressive skulls, crazy stuff everywhere in my design. I like mostly clean designs, or I like fun designs. I like things that are just kind of interesting, and I think Matt does a good job of both. A lot of his stuff is the design's very clean. It's simple, and I like for me simple is better. And then on the ones where they're a little bit more elaborate, right? They're fun, they're interesting. It's not just like something that you're going to see everywhere. It's not some silly design that some guy just like copy and pasted and now he's making rash guards, because you see that all the time. You see people like, there's a guy ripping off my logo kind of. It's like
I saw that.
Some guy is ripping off. It's just I don't know who these people are, but they just rip off logos, they rip off stuff,
Yeah.
and then they plop it on like a screen print, like, hey, buy our stuff. This is a guy that's within the jiu-jitsu community. He's one of us. He's not just doing it to like try to make some money, a quick buck. He's doing it because he enjoys it, and he's putting cool designs together. They're made by him. So again, if you want to check it out, epicrollbjj.com. Promo code is jiu-jitsu. Save
15%.
15%. Sometimes I'm off. So you can check that out. And again, guys, one of the things I wanted to mention to you guys also is that Eugene has a hip course coming up. So again, I bring this up, I'm just saying this because a lot of people have, and I was one of these people back in the day. I remember I had a point where I would literally, like I remember being in New York, and up in New York, you got to walk everywhere, right? So I'm walking around town, and I remember I'd get to this point where like my low back would seize up. I would have to stop and sit down, and I remember having to go into like coffee shops just to sit for a few minutes because my low back would get so tight. We would take like a 5-minute break. I'd get back up, and we'd go walk again. And if I walked for like 30 minutes, my back would just hurt so bad. And, I didn't know what it was. I thought my low back was tight. So I'm like, okay, I need to do low back stuff. What it come to find out later on from testing and stuff like that was it's my hips. My hip flexors and all this stuff were way too tight. So it was creating this pressure on my low back. Magical thing happened as I started to strengthen my hips, open my hips up better, stretch them out, and strengthen them both in the right way. All of a sudden, I'm walking around and I don't have back pain. I can stand up for 30, 40 minutes and I don't have back pain. Like when I do those videos sometimes my videos are, if I'm doing multiple ones, like I can do 30 minutes, whatever. I don't have back pain. And so again, I encourage you guys, like, again, there's more to it than back pain. There can be knee and stuff like that. It can transfer throughout the whole body. But Eugene's put a really good course together. Again, he's a doctor of physical therapy. He's been doing jiu-jitsu for 12 years. He understands what we're doing. So we put a really cool program together that will allow you to move better on the mats, allow your hips to have better, increased mobility, flexibility, but also from an injury prevention thing, it's going to be helpful to you. So again, all those things, if you want to check that out, Eugene, where do they go?
Just head over to grapplingrx.com. You can do /optimized hips, or just type in grapplingrx.com and you'll see it there.
Cool. So you can check that out. And then, guys, always, if you guys want to sign up for our Patreon to support the podcast and get some content, check it out at patreon.com/the Jiu-Jitsu Podcast. On that section there, for less than a quarter a day, that's the thing.
On months that it's more than 30 days, it's actually ends up even
Shut up, Eugene.
cheaper.
Shut up, Eugene.
Math is hard.
It's even better, right?
So
So in July it'll be cheaper because there's more days.
There you go.
Do you know why July and August have
This
more
is a
days?
dad joke.
No,
I don't know.
Augustus and Julian. Julius Caesar, Augustus. So on the calendar, they're like, well, we want like August. Julius Caesar has either Julius. There's 31 days for him. Well, I'm Augustus. I want 31 days too.
Is that a real story?
I believe it is. I haven't double checked it, but I remember
check it.
I remember reading that somewhere.
I believe you know a lot of history.
Well, a lot of times the history stuff gets kind of like mushed together. I'm sure someone, if it's wrong, someone's going to tell me. They're like, sure, you got it all wrong, bro. This is not how it happened. There's 31 days in July because, this thing. Anyway. But if you guys want to check out the Patreon,
it's because of daylight savings time too.
Yeah, and farmers. So if you guys want to check out the Patreon, which we have video content, we have audio content. There's a seminar on there. There's some stretches on there. There's lots of conversations that we have never posted before that are secret in the back end kind of stuff. That's with all the black belts and people that we interview. If you want to get all that stuff for less than a quarter a day, you can get it by going to patreon.com/the Jiu-Jitsu Podcast. I should start speaking in this way.
Voiceover.
I should be. And welcome to the Jiu-Jitsu Podcast. We're here with Nick Julialbin and Eugene Tizhikovich. It's Russian. And today we have Dean Lister in the podcast.
Let's get started.
Yeah, right?
I'm just gonna let's get it going.
Let's get it going.
All right.
Hey, brother. So yeah, man, we wanted to when Eugene and I were talking about having someone on, I was like, I want to get Dean on at some point because I remember I came to one of your seminars in 2014. You came out here to Kentucky and you did a seminar in Georgetown, and I remember, I've gone to lots of like seminars over the years, and I remember, at that particular one, it was a mixture of like training jiu-jitsu, learning some leg locks, stuff like that, but there was also like this entertainment aspect of it. Actually, it was one of my favorite seminars because, sometimes you go to a seminar and it's basically this boring, like just technical, like shoving like techniques down your throat. You don't remember shit. And then after it's over, you're like, well, I think it was a good time. I don't remember anything because I was overloaded with technique, but whatever. But that one was funny because like for every technique, there was like a story that went with it. You know what I mean? There'd be like story time, technique, and then we would drill. And then I remember even at one point you had like a little hat trick. I remember I was there. He goes, all right, so try to ankle lock me. Just like, and so I'm putting a little bit of pressure. And he's like, no, go ahead. As much pressure as you want to. Try to ankle lock me, and like, no, it obviously didn't feel it, but it was a good seminar. And I remember I was like, it was a fun thing. So I wanted to have you on the podcast. So brother, thanks for being on with us today.
Great to be here.
What are you doing?
These don't fit me,
dude.
Got that mask on, so this way we don't transmit through the interwebs.
Yeah. You never know.
Hey, Dean, how big is your head? Let's just talk about that.
What small child did you get that mask from?
Her name was Susan. And, well, someone's gonna get mad I said that, but it just looks like I don't know. They don't make these for my size.
Is that standard XXL size, man?
This is it's for no, it's look, man, we can talk about that stuff later, of course. Like I said before we started, I've seen people driving in their car by themselves with their mask, whatever.
It's so silly, man. The mask in the car thing's silly.
I don't. What's the reason for that? I mean,
I saw a guy the other day, so I was walking up by the park and I saw a dude riding his bike with the mask on. I mean, he's like pedaling and sweating and stuff, and like with the mask on. I'm like, come on, bro.
It's like that training mask thing.
Maybe that's what it is.
Actually, Jocko, on his podcast when I talked with Jocko, it's true. Back in 2001, the year 2000, 2001, he actually was like, I'm in good shape. It's before one of my first fights. And Jocko's like, he brought a legitimate gas mask, a military gas mask, probably a higher level one because he's a SEAL. He's like, all right, run on the treadmill. And I ran the treadmill with this gas mask on. And it was like, it wasn't fun, but it was a real gas mask, So we were doing that back in 2001. And now there's an actual company, gas mask. It's just to, of course, increase your lung capacity. It's cool, Yeah. But yeah, that's an old school training to me. But legit gas mask. I wish I had a photo of that, by the way. Yeah.
How heavy was that thing? Pretty heavy?
That's about 2 pounds.
Oh, okay.
2 pounds, yeah.
Yeah, I remember when that started to become a thing because I remember there was back when the UFC was starting to kind of get more airtime on Spike, they were showing like a training thing with Sean Shirk back in the day, and he was like wearing the gas mask and and they were training with it.
They said that actually doesn't work. Like the research doesn't back it up.
Yeah. Okay, because I looked into that. Here's what it is. There's an idea of, okay, I'm going to restrict my lungs to make my lungs stronger, but now you don't get enough oxygen to your muscles. So your muscles are not worked as hard as they could normally, right? Mm-hmm. There's a different idea of getting extra oxygen into your body to train it's an old-fashioned idea, but now your lungs are oversupplied. They don't get a workout. There's the idea of training high altitude, and there's some sense behind that in some ways. It builds up your red blood cell level and stuff like that.
Yes.
But then again, you look at guys like Minotauro from Brazil. He trains at seaside, and he has like one good lung, and he has great endurance. So it's really like how you train, the quality of training you have, the quality of training partner you have, and how you eat, and of course your supplementary exercises. I think so. It's all interesting, and there's even this idea of sleep high, train low. So when you're outside of training, you should have this like hard on your lungs. Like, I was up in Big Bear with Tito Ortiz. I don't know how many times when I was a coach, and the idea was up there. Well, you sleep high, train high. Okay, but you can't train at the same intensity because your lungs can't deliver the same amount of oxygen to your muscles. So it's an interesting idea, but there's some people get these sleep chambers or sleep tents. They sleep in them at night for 8 hours. So they're getting their long workout there, but when they get out of their tents or whatever, or I guess if you drove up and down the mountain every day, I don't know. you can train low at low altitude. So whatever. We'll move on to a different subject, but that's an interesting idea, you know?
Yeah, I think honestly, just to end it, I think like if you are going to be fighting at high altitude to get your body to adapt, I think that's kind of
that's the most important.
I think that's key. But if you're just so your body's used to it. Dean, a little bit about kind of if people don't know who you are, man, like what got you into jiu-jitsu? Like, how did you get started in all this?
Well, I was a wrestler in high school, but I don't know why I heard about. Okay, let's back up before. I grew up in Central and South America as a kid, and it's not like a poor me story. And you've heard many fighters say this, but it was like I looked different than anyone else as a kid. I didn't speak the language at the time, and we invaded Panama, and so I was living in Panama in 1989, and I don't know, I got into a lot of fights, and it was like versus me because I was from USA, and we had an invasion there, so I got in some serious fights in junior high. And the kids were older, and there was usually more than one of them, and it was a problem. And so I got this like not a phobia, but like I wanted to learn how to fight. It was very important to me. So eventually, I did some kickboxing, some karate, some stuff like that, and I got into wrestling. And by the way, my dad made me wrestle for 1 year when I was 8 years old, and that helped me a lot in those fights in Panama in junior high. Just that 1 year of wrestling. When I was 8 years old. This kind of sounds silly, but that 1 year, I could do double leg takedown. And that pretty much stops, as we know nowadays. If you have someone who's clueless on the ground, you take them down, and they're on their back, they can't do much. The fight's kind of over. Okay, so unless there's more than one person, which that's a different story. But either way, that's going to suck. So just combined with that, the idea that I could be attacked. It was something that happened for a couple of years. I wrestled in high school, and then I hear about this thing called Sambo. And submission. What's submission? Oh, you can get your arm broken. And Jocko, my brother Jocko, and myself, we share this in common. If I tell myself in my head that looks scary, I have to do it now. I have to do it. So to me, wrestling was, of course, wrestling is. In its own way, it's the hardest sport in the world. In its own way. In its own way, it is. It's a higher pace than the average jiu-jitsu match and stuff. But it's a shorter match in 6 minutes and whatever. But you're not getting your arm, well, you could get your arm broken. It's not an intentional thing, though. The idea of Sambo, it's kind of in the middle of jiu-jitsu and wrestling in a way. And that's a Russian martial art, for those who don't know. I ended up being a 2-time national Sambo champion before I did jiu-jitsu. So I was already doing leg locks, arm locks, and at that time they didn't allow chokes. So then the UFC happened. The UFC won, and Royce Gracie from Brazil. Who's this? I think I met one Brazilian in my life at the moment, and I worked with him at a shop on the beach in high school. And Royce Gracie did a good job, of course. And of course now I know almost all the Gracies. I've been to Brazil. I don't know. 15 times, and I saw that jiu-jitsu was an interesting thing. And look, of course, in Japanese, gentle art is jiu-jitsu. Brazilian is a different style. It's based more on the ground. And I just got into. I don't know why the submission game made more sense than pinning someone on their back. For some reason, that type of grappling made sense to me. So, long story short, or short story long, right?
Now, when you got into grappling back then, because back in the day, you just to kind of go back, you were like, when I was first getting into jiu-jitsu back in 2003 after high school wrestling, I remember I got a hold of some of the ADCC tapes and stuff like that. And I remember there were a couple, but you were one of the only Americans doing jiu-jitsu and grappling in that manner. Like you had Mark Kerr and Coleman, Mark Kerr, who would take people down. Tito would take people down. And for the most part, they would kind of just hang on and win by points. Mark Kerr would get his submissions with cranks and stuff. But you were like, I remember you leg lock, you knee barred Salo. And it was like, oh my God, that was amazing, right? And so when you got into jiu-jitsu back in the day, leg locks were frowned upon. I remember in 2003 coming into jiu-jitsu, and it was like you did leg locks if you couldn't pass the guard was kind of it was kind of seen as kind of a bad thing or sort of a less manly thing.
last resort. You kind of cheat. You didn't cheat, but it's a low level. It's a low level. Yeah, it's like a boxer would look at kicking, like it's dirty. It's a dirty move.
Exactly. So when you came into jiu-jitsu with your Sambo background, were you using leg locks right out of the gate, or how did that whole situation work? Because I mean, leg locks are one of your things you're known for. You finished most of your fights, I think, with like heel hooks back then. So how did it, like, did you take your Sambo into jiu-jitsu? How did that work out?
Yeah, I learned from people like Oleg Tatarov. I trained with him. I got a Nikolai Baturin, which even though I speak a little bit of Croatian, a little bit. Russian is similar. I still butcher names. So Nikolai Baturin, Oleg Tatarov. I trained with a couple of these high-level Russian guys. Oleg Tatarov eventually became a UFC champion.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, before I did jiu-jitsu, it just was an option. It was something I learned. It wasn't a low-level thing. It seemed like a pretty intimidating thing. And I won't say this guy's name because he's a private person, but he's a high-level Sambo guy. And he was teaching a seminar in English, but of course his accent from Russia. He's like, the reason I prefer leg lock over arm any other submission is because if I'm at party or I'm at bar with my wife, strange man grabs her behind with his hand. I'm upset, of course. I break his arm, right? Okay, I win the fight. Now he has time to go to vehicle, get Kalashnikov, come back, I'm dead. But if I break his leg, he cannot go to vehicle, get Kalashnikov, and come back. It's like that's a bad Russian accent, but that's a pretty cool analogy. So so that was like that stuck in my head, like just as an option, like they can't chase you after a fight. So leg locks were just an option, and I always looked at it as 50%. Technically, it's 40% of the human body because 2 legs, 2 arms, 1 head. But the two legs, man. I mean, if you would neglect those things, why is that? And it's just something that stuck with me for some reason. So yeah, Sambo helped me for sure. I did invent. I came up with a few things that no one showed me before. I would say, like, I didn't invent the 50-50. No one showed it to me though. I'm sure maybe someone did it in the Coliseum. Someone did it. Some Japanese guy did that 1,000 years ago. Maybe from India. Maybe from China. I'm sure because the ways the legs intertangle is, of course, something happened like that. So the 50-50, I didn't have a name for the position, and Jocko could attest to this. Back in 2000, 2001, I was using this. 99, 98, I was using this, and no one had a name for it. But you couldn't turn out of leg locks. And I saved that for 2003 in the finals, and I beat Kakareko in the finals with this move. And that setup with Saldo was also something that no one showed me. And by the way, when I'm talking about opponents, I'm talking with the utmost respect. We're just mentioning names because it's something that happened in public. By the way, Chewy, what do you think? Would people mention, like, publicly in training that they tap some high level guy? Don't you think that's kind of like,
in training?
What are you doing? Yeah. Okay. So if
training you don't roll and tell.
I like that. I never heard roll and tell, but that's what I'm saying. Exactly. So in training is different, but in competition we could talk about certain things. That's what I'm saying, right?
Well, the competition is the public realm. That's where we publicly do stuff, and that's just what it is. The training is a sacred environment. That's where we test ourselves, and I believe there has to be that sort of that ability for us to contain it all in there. So this way we can try new stuff out, because I don't know about you. I'm sure you've been around some training partner where, you couldn't relax with them, where you knew if they were going to get a submission or whatever, they'd talk about it, they'd leave the gym, whatever. And so when you rolled with that guy, you had to use your A game. Whereas like your good training partners, you can like test new stuff out. You can try new stuff out. If it doesn't work, it's no big deal because it's the lab, And
there's also the reverse situation. And I just mentioned it. It's okay. It happened. So I already dealt with this person as an individual, as a man. We talked about it, but it's this guy named Nawaza. You know him?
I know of him. Yeah, so I don't know him, but I know of him.
He came to my gym and he trained with me, like before I faced Barnett, and that's cool. I trained with him one-on-one. I was showing him this and this, and then I'm talking 6 days later, he's in Barnett's corner. So the opposite can happen as well.
Yeah.
And so I was like, I noticed that it was in my head a little bit, and then I talked to him like a week later about it. And he apologized. It's cool. You know, he didn't. It's like, bro, you don't go to someone's gym, train with them one-on-one, not let them know that they're the opponent's corner. So yeah, it could happen in both ways. But yeah, in my opinion, if you train with someone, what if you get tapped? What if you tap them? It's a secret, right?
Mm-hmm.
So interesting. That's a kind of an unwritten code, you know. But yeah, so these high-level guys, I was getting in these leg locks, and it was a high percentage. It was, I mean, there was some. I would go to tournaments and I'd win my division and then the absolute division, all eight matches by submission. I've had days like that before.
Mm-hmm.
And one time was 7 out of the 8 were by leg lock, and then I got one triangle. You know, that was in 1999 or whatever. So I've been doing leg locks for a long time, and I don't like to call myself. I'm not against it, but I don't prefer to call myself a leg lock specialist because I do have arm locks. I will get your back. I will go for a guillotine. I will go for. I'll do things. But if you don't hide your feet from me, I'll grab your legs. It's the first thing I can grab usually. That's why.
Did you avoid like leg locks or or not avoid them, but they're kind of last resort for you because of the stigma, or was it something that if it's there, you're going to get it, you know, in a tournament?
I always liked it. I always liked when people were like he's a bad, not bad boy, whatever. I thought it was just funny because what if I say what if for some reason I can make an argument that the shoulder is the most complex joint in the body, right? I mean, it's very complex. So if you get me in a kimura on my right arm, I can't even write. I can't even type. I can't even work. So we should make kimuras illegal because that's a dirty move, right? Okay, who believes that? No one really. Okay. By the way, if you pop my ankle on a straight footlock, I can still drive a car, you know. I can still write. I can still type. Okay, so I can make an argument the other way. I can say like, man, if you break someone, if you twist someone's arm, I don't know. I just always looked at it as a target of opportunity because it was a moment of weakness. It was a lack of open-mindedness on most people to see this. And I was never the full lock specialist guy that could only do that, because that guy you can just hide your feet, butterfly guard, and that stops most of the leg locks. So being a specialist is cool, but if someone knows about it, I fought guys. I lived in Croatia. I was Krokop's coach. If anyone knows Mirko Krokop, he's one of the best in history. Absolutely. That guy, well, he has good punches, of course, but he primarily is known for kicking. You don't want to stay in that kicking range with that guy if you were to fight him. You want to get very close. He's not necessarily a kicking specialist. He can box also. He can throw elbows. I'm just saying, I've found guys who can only kick. There's guys from like Taekwondo I fought who, if you stay far away from them, their feet are so fast, it's a problem. You have to grab them, okay? I know boxers who can't kick and they can't grapple. I know some wrestlers who, like, when they punch, they'll close their eyes, you know, because so you got to stay away from those guys. No, not me. I would grab that guy personally because I'm also a wrestler. So it's just, to me, I was never the specialist, but for me, it was a cool opportunity. And over time, I developed my moves out of competition, taking chances at high levels. I have lost high-level matches because I went for a bad leg lock, and I lost by a point or two. But over time, I refined my technique, and it worked out in a good way. So,
yeah, and when you were talking about that, you know, for me as a coach, I remember, I guess it was in 2013, we started training leg locks. It's a Friday Foot Locker day. So every Friday we do leg locks. It doesn't matter what we're going over that week, whatever the theme is for the couple of weeks that we're training, we do leg locks every single Friday, and that's where we get down and do them. And as a coach, and you know, you tell me what you think. As a coach, I noticed that before we did this, before we would do leg locks just occasionally throughout the sequence and stuff of the curriculum, I had more injuries with my students getting ankle locked and twisting out of it the wrong way or whatever it might be. Whereas the more leg locks we practiced, the more we understood them, the right time to tap and all that stuff, the right way to apply pressure. We have very few injuries directly related to leg locks.
Yeah. Yeah. You know what? I agree. It's because it's getting, like, let's say fluency. Fluency in something. How about we practice hard throws just 3 times a year. people get hurt more. Okay,
Yeah.
now I'm not saying try to hurt someone with a throw ever. By the way, throws are more dangerous than leg locks. You can break your back, not break. I'm saying, okay, your spine and your head are more precious than your legs. Okay?
Man, you talk to some old
So
judo guys, dude, and their backs are all kinds
For
of
sure.
jacked up, you know?
That's true, but they don't get hurt when they fall generally.
True,
Because they know how to fall very well. By the
Mhm.
way, my legs and my shoulder and my joints are just generally jacked up too. And I even talk funny, but that's from could be my UFC career and also my just traveling around the world with different accents I have. So, how many guys have you seen pull off a hip throw in a jiu-jitsu tournament in your life?
How many?
Yeah, a hip throw.
I don't know, but it's not a ton.
There we go. Not a ton. How many hip throws have you seen in judo?
I mean,
Lots.
a lot.
Pretty much all.
Yeah.
I mean,
a lot. Exactly.
Mhm.
That's because they do a lot more, right?
Right.
So the thing is, if you practice, falling, once you know how to fall, okay, you can fall. Like once you have a general knowledge of something, then you don't have to do it as much. So if you have the practice of falling just a couple times a year, people are going to get hurt more because you got to do it more and more often. So I understand what you're saying about that. If you have only this one day where it's authorized, and by the way, it should be, in my opinion, especially when you learn catch and release. Jocko we do that for any submission, especially twisting submissions.
Yep.
Okay, twisting submissions. If you're not tapping to Kimura, I'll switch to a straight arm lock.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're my bro, at least, and you're not tapping that, I'll just let you go eventually. I'm not gonna pop your arm, or I'll go slow until I tap you. A choke, I'll make the person. Well, if they go to sleep, it can happen, but they tap. Twisting submissions like a Kimura, but more, let's say, for a heel hook. If they're not tapping in time, I can switch to a straight foot lock.
Mm-hmm.
If they're twisting the wrong direction, I'll let go of it. I will let go of the move because I don't want to be. It would be more their fault, but I don't want to be associated or have that reputation. I don't have that reputation, even though I'm a leg lock guy, of holding on to submissions too long. I think that's very important. There's some ego there, and if you think that like, oh well, if I let him go, he'll think that he escaped. That's fine. That's perfect. Now the thing is, if he continues doing that, he's gonna find someone that won't let go, and he'll get hurt. So you don't want to be that guy. So I think that leg locks, it's just like an elbow in Muay Thai. It's one weapon, or a punch in boxing, or a kick in kickboxing, or a throw in wrestling. It's just one more thing to know about that if you do not know about, it's a giant weakness in your game. It's just my opinion. Right?
Dean, so in that situation where you're rolling with somebody, even if it's a buddy of yours, and you do let go of it, after the roll's over, do you like say, hey man, like, why didn't you tap? Do you bring it up at all to try to like educate them and let them know they're in trouble?
No, especially that's from my best friends. I won't say anything, but I'll say like nice escape like that, but they know I'm being sarcastic.
Gotcha. So you get it. You make a point of it.
Yeah, no, but it's like, but Jocko has his days too on me, and it's like for instance, let's say Chewy, I'm mounted on you. We fall out of bounds. I'm mounted though. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Now we get back up. We go back to the middle of the mat. You could use that as an excuse, like, well, we went out of bounds. Let's start again neutral. I'll be like, okay, because for me that's a sign of it's a sign of weakness. I just think I'll let the person get away with that. Now, if I get mounted when I go out of bounds, I will demand I start again with my opponent mounted on top of me.
Mm-hmm.
Jocko and I, we share that in common, but a lot of people don't. So there are certain things. And by the way, if I went out of bounds, mounted on, not you specifically, Chewy, but let's say anyone, and you wanted to start neutral, I'd be like, all right, right on. But I know something mental just happened right now.
Mm-hmm.
Something mental just happened. I've had guys where we go out of bounds, and I'll go like sarcastically, hey, if you want, you can start in a better position. And they'll go, oh, thank you. I'm like, and so now I lose my position because I offered it. And Jocko, if I do that, Jocko will talk about it. No, same one. And he'll insist. And I'm the same way. So we play at the game. Hey, Jocko, if you want to start with your arm in a different, geez, stop it. Like it's opposite than some people. So I don't know, it's just funny, these things. It's not that important to me, actually. If someone thinks they escaped, that's fine. And they might have escaped. I just don't want to know at the moment. It's just training. And but you have to learn how to apply it correctly. And you have to learn how to go hard if you have to. But in my opinion, it's something you got to be careful about. And overall, just about submissions themselves, anything.
Yeah, no, when you were talking about that, like we talked earlier about don't roll and tell, like one of the things I think it's kind of like another unwritten rule is like for me, I never want to take any submission past the point of where something would get damaged. So I don't care if it's an arm bar, or kimura, leg lock, whatever. I'm not going to keep cranking the submission. If for some reason, if I have a dude locked up, like I'll talk to even like the other black belts and stuff. I'll like, if I've got it locked out, I'll be like, and I'm holding it for like 3 seconds. Yeah. So like, dude, you okay? Like, you good? And if they're like still fighting out of it, I'll just kind of see if
you'll kind of pause. That's what you do a lot. You'll stop. Like you'll get it. And then you're like, all right, if it goes, I mean, most people know, like if you're above if you're a purple belt, you should pretty much know when you're done.
Yeah. I usually just go, I call the name like, Jocko, really slow. That's what I do.
Yeah. How did you guys how'd you guys get to training together, by the way? How did that come about?
So technically speaking, he did jiu-jitsu before me. Not as long as me. Like if you add up the years, I did maybe an extra 2 years. That's it. So we're comfortable. And by the way, he doesn't like hearing this, but it's true. Technically, I saw a battle before he did. But it's like, it's technically it's 1/10,000th of his experience. Okay, it's 1/10,000th. Okay, I was a little kid in the war. Okay, but so he was he had an old I won't say names of certain people that I don't know would like it. But I know one, it's a friend named Jeff Higgs. I mean, the guy is just a maniac, and he was also a team guy or a SEAL. And Higgs is a skinnier guy. Jocko's a bigger guy. Well, I'm talking where they're probably like 24, and I was 19. And Higgs is like Jeff Higgs. And he actually gave me my black belt, actually. He's a good friend of mine. He's a very solid instructor, right? And he lives here in San Diego. He travels to like Russia, travels around the world. And so he basically said, hey, Jocko, you want to train one day? But now Higgs is a blue belt, right? So Jocko had trained before, like 8 times or something. And Jocko's a strong guy, very intimidating. And plus, at that time, he was not the older, wiser Jocko of today. Okay? He's just a younger guy getting after it, as he says.
Yeah.
Which is his no, this stand by to get some. That's a different one he has. Getting after it. So he was just a younger guy, 25 or something. Came in. Well, apparently he trained with Higgs like on the grass somewhere. And like Higgs now has maybe 2 years of experience, not just 8 times of training. Just choked Jocko like, I don't know. Jocko will tell you a story much better than me, like I don't know how many times. And Jocko's like, I want to learn that now. So he came in to the gym, and I was training with Fabio Santos, who was my original instructor here in San Diego, who was a great coach, by the way. But when he gets a chance to train with him, he has some of the original techniques that I learned when I was younger. He comes in and just says, I want to join. Well, do you want an intro class? No, I want to join right now. Well, do you want an intro class? No, I want to pay. I want to give you money right now to join. So he was that convinced. Jocko sees that challenge, and he came in, and first time I saw him, he looked like the Terminator, just walked in, no emotion on his face. And he, he's a white belt, but he was just no expression, no grunting or yelling, or there was no grimace or pain on his face. Just I could tell we would get along right away. Then we got to a point where, like on Saturday at open mats, it's like it was from like 10 to 1. I mean, we'd be there until 4, and the coach was like, "Get the hell out of the gym. You have no social life. What's wrong with you guys?" So yeah, we would spend 6 hours every Saturday going over techniques, and that helps over time, So that's my brother, man, Jocko. A long story, but that's how you met. Jocko Willink, Jocko Podcast. That's it. Check it out if you can.
What makes you guys such good training partners? Because you've been, together for a long time. What was that, that you saw in him, maybe what he saw in you that made you guys kind of so compatible?
I'm a military kid. Grew up in the military, and he's a military guy. So we had that connection as far as I'm very familiar with people who are in the service, and we would even go train on the Navy base sometimes, and I could just tell he was a solid guy, and plus at that time I wanted to maybe go in the military. I was thinking about that too. So I don't know why. It's a very strange thing. It's and now that guy, and he's so well known. He was in my corner in the UFC. He was in my corner in Pride. I was overweight one time for a fight, and he ran with me for 3 hours a day. So he actually ran with me, by the way. He didn't just say, I'll just run there. I'm going to sit here at home and drink a beer. He actually ran with me around the beach. If you're familiar with San Diego, he ran from Ocean Beach through Point Loma to Mission Beach, around. We got in the ocean with our shoes on, swim around some cliffs, which I don't recommend if you're not a strong swimmer. Please do not do that. I mean, that could be very, very dangerous. I'm a strong swimmer. He's a faster swimmer. And so he's a Navy SEAL. I'm not a Navy SEAL. So we swam around these cliffs and ran back. And that was like 3 hours, a 3-hour run with swimming, and he did that with me. And that's not a normal person. Even a normal coach doesn't do that, So, yeah. And it's kind of a weird thing. I'm cutting weight for a fight, and I'm just eating a can of tuna per day. Oof. That's it for 2 weeks, and I'm running 3 hours a day. So I lost the weight real fast. And that wasn't fun as far as that process. If you want to lose 15 pounds in 2 weeks, it's not like it's complicated, but it really sucks. It really sucks. Plus, I was already low body fat. So just that swimming, running, all that together, and we would train. He would come if I said, hey, let's train at 5:30 in the morning tomorrow. In his head, if he says no, that's weakness. He'll be there. He'll be there early, actually. He'll be there earlier before you, It's just how he was. So that was he has a crazy, cool, calm mentality, but I'm talking, he's not a normal person. And he will say the same about me. I'm not a normal person. And it takes one to know one, I guess. So that's why we're bros. Plus, he's always been behind me. Let's say, he always had my back. In jiu-jitsu, but let's say I went through a harder problem in my life. He was always there to talk to, and not like a poor you thing. Like, hey man, what's up? What's going on? Talk to me about it, And so he's been an OG friend for a long time.
Now you were talking about getting into fighting and stuff. So I'm curious about some of this stuff. When did you get into fighting? How did your first fight and all that kind of stuff? How did that get going?
Our first fight happened in the year 2000. And it was kind of like one of those things, you see the guys in the cage, there's blood everywhere, and you're like, oh man, and there's people screaming. And in those days, it was more crude. It was kind of cool in a way because it was more like unexplored territory. But in the year 2000, that was when they were like, you don't really need gloves, but we recommend them.
Yeah.
And my first 2 fights were with wrestling shoes on. They were wrestling shoes. Well, now no one allows. Maybe Japan they'll allow that. It just got to where, from my past of, once again, not the poor bully kid. Now I can fight. Okay. By the way, at that time I didn't speak Spanish. Now I speak Spanish. I speak Portuguese. I speak other languages. If you find something you're not good at or you're weak at, you can become strong at it if you put the effort in. So then I realized as a wrestler, like how do you grab a guy who has a long reach and can punch you? Okay, of course I could do that, but let's say how would I do? Like that's kind of scary. I'll use the word scary. That's kind of scary. Well, now I have to do it. I told myself now I have to do it. If that's scary to me, like submissions, where it's like you can get your arm broken in Sambo and jiu-jitsu, man, that's kind of crazy. Oh, I got to do it now. Same thing. That seems kind of like, man, imagine walking in front of like thousands of people watching you walk into a cage. They lock the cage, and you're there on purpose, voluntarily. That seems kind of like why would you do that? Well, now I have to do it because I'm a dumbass. Why? And by the way, that's a real feeling too. You know this, right? You fight in a cage or a ring?
I fought both. I fought in the cage, but that first one, I had the same thing that you were talking about, where as soon as I walk in, I remember they lock the cage door shut, and I remember looking
clink.
Right, and then right, and then I had this this moment where I'm like,
what the hell am I doing?
What the fuck am I doing? I'm in a cage fighting a grown man. Like, this makes no sense.
I'm like, man, this will be over in a minute, either way. And back in those days, it was like before I had any level of striking or awareness or relaxation, or let's say, because grappling is a more kinesthetic or tactile based sport, touch based. Boxing, kickboxing is more visual. People can say, "Oh yeah, put a blindfold on." With jiu-jitsu you can do that because you don't need your eyes as much. But I don't see any world champion kickboxers putting blindfolds on against a kickboxer without a blindfold, right? So that makes some sense. Okay, I like the idea, but with kickboxing, you use your eyes. You actually use your eyes. And you need to watch those old movies. They're cool. I appreciate the message, but I've never seen a boxer, a professional boxer. Let me know if I'm wrong. And if he did this, he was on some drugs or something. Okay,
I don't know.
Put a blindfold on. Okay, unless you're a pro versus someone who's never fought in their life, I don't recommend doing that. So kickboxing is more eyes, visual awareness. You have peripheral vision if you're a kickboxer. It's just different. You have to see different movements and the feints and the directions, and so it has similarities, but it's more of a visual sport. Of course, it's physical. You get punched in the face. Jiu-jitsu is more of the kinesthetic or tactile, touch, grab. So the thing is, I already had that understanding of the tactile sports, grabbing, okay? And I wanted to learn something else. By the way, audio, even though I love music, I am not a musician at all. Now, I can play the guitar. I used to play like 2 songs, but I'm not good at all. So I'm not gifted in the audio realm. I know people who are gifted in have you ever met someone who can make a beat like on top of their head and they can put it like in a piano or some right away? You're like, what? How'd you do that? Well, some of them look at guys like us doing like a flying reverse omoplata. But like, what is that and how did you do it? You know?
Yeah.
So not everyone's gifted in different ways. So I wanted to become a decent level striker. Now I am finally. It took me a long time. And of course, I can always take a punch and I can hit very hard. And I'm aware of the power transference from the floor to the hips, to the shoulders, to the end of the fist. I'm aware of how kicks work. I'm aware of distancing. I'm aware of footwork. I'm aware of angles. I'm aware of all these things to close the distance on my opponent. And over time, now I can even teach striking now, even though I'm not an official licensed kickboxing coach. I have fight experience. So I think it is very important that I looked at that. And I don't think everyone needs, especially nowadays, to be a fighter. But back in those days, there was no way to make money in jiu-jitsu, really, unless you were an older coach or you were a world champion. And that happened to me eventually, and I opened a school. But at that time, the only way you can make money, and it wasn't a lot, was to fight. And so that's what I did. That's why I got into fighting.
Where was do you have like a favorite place to fight? I mean, I know you fought in UFC, you fought in Pride. Is there something special maybe like about Japan and fighting back in the day when you did, which was kind of crazy times?
Okay, it's just in many different ways. But King of the Cage was my original starting place. So they've always treated me very well. And I had some tough. I fought Jeremy Horn there. Quentin Rampage Jackson is my friend. He fought his first fight there. Ronda Rousey fought there. I mean, it was at that moment. By the way, people can see it up or down, but at that moment it was ranked 3 in the world. Like 2001.
Yeah.
Around this time. Back then it was ranked. Pride won. It was ranked. Okay. Close to, but then again, same, whatever. King of the Cage, guys came out of there and went to both, either one, right? So that was my home. And then Pride was probably the more magical experience. I fought in front of 95,000 people one time in Osaka, Japan. With the Rona, I fought with Carter Rona, one of my nemesis. Imagine walking out, okay, minus like UFC, being on television, a couple million are watching you. Okay, that's cool, but not live though. So 95,000 people, I mean, that's almost 200,000 eyeballs on you. It's 190,000 eyeballs on you when you walk out. Just you. It's a crazy, weird thing. Your face is on the arena, you know, with like lasers, and it's just weird. And it was more of a magical experience. And that was also that time in my life, let's say around 28, 29, where like everything's not perfect, but you know, you understand enough of the world to where you can get around in the world, but there's still mystery in the world. And when you get older, it's like you understand almost too much, and there's not enough mystery. When you're like 19, there's too much mystery, but you don't know what the hell you're doing, right? So I'm at the age where I have a passport and travel. I've already been to 15 countries, and I'm fighting the best guys in the world. I'm 29 years old or 28 years old. And then UFC was more of just a little more commercial, a little more. I mean, that grew up to be the biggest event and the greatest in history is UFC, of course. So I love all of my times in different phases of my life. All three are great, man. It really. And UFC, the thing is, you don't train UFC. Of course, that's the joke. The sport is mixed martial arts, and let's say if you have facial tissues, UFC is the Kleenex of facial tissues. You know, it's a brand name, right?
Yeah.
So you don't train, but you will say, "Give me a Kleenex," right?
Well, it's like the Coke and sodas, right? It's like I want a Coke, even though you might be talking about something else. Yeah,
exactly. Yep.
But there's a sweet spot with nerves. I don't know what you think about it. You know, just from competing and stuff for years. I know that when I was younger and I was more insecure, I would get way more nervous before matches, and like you said, worry about irrational bullshit. And then as I got older, you realize like it doesn't really matter. Like if I lose, it's not like my girlfriend's gonna leave me. It's not like my coach is gonna hate me, whatever. But then you kind of are able to channel those nerves maybe to be just a little bit better than what you are in the gym, and kind of get excited. Like when I compete now, just tournaments and stuff like that. Like I get excited. It's fun. Like you're way more pumped up, you know, but you're not necessarily nervous per se. Did you ever find that kind of that sweet spot for your own self when you're competing and fighting?
Yeah, you know, at some point what happened was, let's see. Actually, you know Stuart Cooper? He did a pretty flattering documentary about my last high level year of competing was 2013. Seems like a long time to me. It seems like, and in the video, I say, you know, I'm actually here to have fun. That's one of the few times. One of the few times I meant that, because you can say that, because the thing is, this is more of an American or a Western thing where the guy says or the girl says, "I know I'm going to win. I know I'm going to win. Of course, I'm going to win." Great to have confidence, but how do you know you're going to win? Well, I know I'm going to win. Can you read the future? No. So what's going to happen? That's a problem. Now, there's outward appearance someone has. I mean, there's some guys who look like they're the toughest man in the world, but they're not, and they're actually weak people, right? Sure, you've seen this, right? You've seen a guy that looks all show, no go. Sometimes a guy looks like he's nothing, but he's tough. By the way, usually you can spot someone who's tough. So there's some people who look tough and they're tough. There's people who look weak and they're weak, okay? I'm just saying, like, it's a weird thing to say, I'm here to have a good time. You know what? I'm here to relax, or actually be relaxed. Actually have a good time. But it takes time to do that, you know? So the more you tell yourself that, the better. But it's not easy to always do. So that kind of thing I would tell someone. Or how about this? Ready? Breathe, breathe, breathe. Does that make the person breathe? Really? Have you ever been at a match, heard someone say breathe to you?
Yeah, I will say this. When I used to, my very first couple of matches, that was like the cue that my coach, we would literally talk about it before that we would compete, because I used to hold my breath and I'd turn purple.
Oh,
so I remember being inside the guard, like locked up, and he would go, "Chewy," and I would like look at him, he'd say, "Breathe." And then it was like I would relax a little bit. But most of the time, like you said, like when someone's in the middle of a scramble or something and they're telling them to breathe, it's like they can't breathe. They're in the middle of a battle.
Yeah, that's different unless you had a conversation like that, and that's a key word. For instance, like Jocko's voice, I can cue in his voice. Like out of 100 people, I can just hear his voice. I can focus for some reason on that. One of my students, we call him Stilts.
I
He's a
take it
great
he's
guy.
long.
Yeah, long legs, and he has his own choke from the gi. It's whatever. Using his legs is awesome. And one time he did this. He got the guy from his move into a triangle, and the guy intentionally let himself get mounted because a triangle is not as effective mounted versus in the guard, right? We know that, right? So the guy's tough. The guy accepts the sweep, and I'm about 8 feet away from him because it was very close to the corner, and I'm sitting in the chair. I go, hey, Phelps, and he goes, yeah, what's up? So yeah, real calm, looks up at me. I go, just so you know, the guy's tough. He's hoping your legs. Okay, you're getting points for the mount, or you're getting points for the sweep at least, not the mount. If you want to take a chance and roll back to your guard, you'll get the submission. Or if you want to stay right there, you could win by points. Your legs will get tired. He went, okay. And he rolled the guy back and finished him, right? So the thing is, he heard me. He was relaxed. He was having a good time. Mm-hmm. And if you're having a good time, you can hear more. But how do you practice having a good time? Chewy, what would you say about that? How do you tell someone, okay, let's practice having a good time?
Man, I think it's different for everyone. For me, it was about being secure in who I was, because when you're secure in who you are and you don't give a shit about what like the outcome is, like for me, like when I first started competing, I was, this is kind of reminding me, like with you talking, I got bullied when I was younger. And as I got older, I had this same kind of idea where every time something kind of spooked me, I was like, I want to go do that. Right. So I was chasing down all these things because it kind of freaked me out. Now I wanted to basically prove to my own self, I'm not weak anymore. Right. So I would go do all these different things. And so with that, like when I get into early on in my teens, if I lost a match, I felt identified with being a loser because I'd lost a match. Whereas as I got older, I'm like, dude, I've lost so many times, you just kind of lose count. So, if I go in there and I go after it and I try to go after the win, go for the kill, I do really well. If I'm worried about the win and the loss, I get messed up. So screw it. And for me, it was when I sort of had sort of a level of security in who I was as a person, where at that point, I didn't give a shit what happened. I'm just going for it. I'm going to go after the win. If I win, great. If I don't, whatever, go again tomorrow.
Yeah, there's a book I read a long time ago. It's called Competitive Fire, and it's based partly off of Michael Jordan, the great Michael Jordan. And, the book made sense to me because it matched my personality very well. Okay, so I'll mention the book one more time, and I forget who wrote it. I mean, this is over 15 years ago I read this book. It's about the idea of using negative energy into positive.
Oh, yeah.
So apparently Michael Jordan could convince himself, this guy in front of me thinks I'm a punk. This guy in front of me thinks I suck. Because he was cut from his junior high basketball team or something, right, when he was young. So he can use that negative energy into a positive. Oh, yeah, you think you can stop me? Watch it slam dunk. Ah, what's up now? He won't say that to the guy. But his energy was incredible. So I can actually, and Jocko, once again, I miss him so much because he's my best bro on the mat. He's my number one training partner. He said many times, why is it that when you're the underdog, you always win? I said, I don't know, because usually it's the opposite. You're the underdog, oh, that means like I'm picked to lose. Man, I hope people say, I was hated when I was in the UFC, walking out. I know you're gonna win. I bet money on you. God damn it! Say you bet against me. Say I bet you're gonna lose. I'll be like, really? Oh, you bet against me? Okay, let's see what happens now. But so that's a weird thing. Not everyone has that, and I'm not saying it's better or worse. I'm not saying my way is. It's just a weird thing I have. If someone says that guy is really tough, that guy, even the guy I fought first. Once again, all respect to my opponents. Alisa Sakara from Italy. The guy is a maniac. The guy is very good, very fast, technical boxing. I believe maybe European champion in boxing. He threw kicks too. He was a brown belt under Nogueira, by the way. I mean, so he's a brown belt under Nogueira. That's already good. He's already good on the ground. But he's a legitimate boxer. And I was told, okay, well, I'm the co-main event when Matt Hughes fought Royce Gracie. Okay. So what do I do about that? Okay, first of all, I had to wait to the end of the night, which racked my nerves. But I looked at it like, This is more like a test, you know? The more nerves, like, this is just a test. Relax, relax. And they have me on the ramp to go out, and they go, intermission. Oh, man.
Oh,
I'm going to walk out in a 20-minute intermission. So now I'm like, okay, it's another test. It's another test. That's just another test. And I walk out first. And generally, the guy who walks out first is not the favorite, generally. I walk out first. He walks out second. And, man, the guy's tough. The guy's very tough. I knew that they were using me as a stepping stone for him to fight Chuck Liddell, because Chuck Liddell probably had harder punches, had a tougher chin. Well, Chuck Liddell at the time was the champion.
Yeah.
But Alicia Sakara had way faster hands and more technical boxing. He was a really legitimate good fighter. He probably still is. I know some tough guys he's beaten. Anyways, I won in the first round by triangle. If someone told me this guy he's a pushover, he's not that good, I probably would have. I'm not saying I would have lost. I could have lost that fight for sure, because it's a weird thing. So some people are the opposite. They want to be told, hey, for instance, I don't like fighting in my hometown. Too much pressure. Like, if all my friends are watching, like, I want to go somewhere where, like, I'm like not the invader. I went to Brazil. No pressure at all, man. Everyone wants to see me lose. Everyone wants to see me lose. Good job. I want to disappoint all of you. Or let the haters hate. That type. I don't want to talk like that. Let the haters hate, but it's true, you know. Let them hate. Become a champion if you can, right? In any way, anything that you could do in life, in my opinion. Quick story about when I'm walking. 2003, I was picked as the last guy. So they have 16 division for the absolute. It's full. I go, I want to be in because I lost that day Saturday to Janji Ribeiro. He beat me that day, you know. And they go, Dean, okay, we'll put your name in, but you're the fourth alternate. That means someone has to say no, or get sick, or get injured. I mean, 4 people or 3. Next day, it turns out one guy's like, I just won my division. I don't want to do it. Another guy got injured. Another guy, one guy, Macaco, came in with a bunch of stitches over his eye. Well, he had a fight the night before. He said, you can't compete. And then Eric Paulson, he looked at me and he said, Dean, I gave you my spot. You know Eric Paulson?
Yeah.
He goes, Dean, you have a golden aura around you. And I don't know how he knew that, but he made a bet with Morris Ferry that I'd win, and he won the bet. Wow. Morris Ferry was like, no way. And I won. So I have no coach. I'm there in Brazil. I speak Portuguese, but not very good at the time. And by the way, do I have an accent right now? Do I have an accent right now?
I think so.
I mean, I feel like every time I've heard you speak from, like, I mean, pretty much ever, you've always kind of had like it's like a untraceable accent, because it doesn't sound like, say, like somewhere that's like in the continental US. It's just like, I think it's probably a mesh of languages going on. Yeah,
that's what it is. People think like I'm trying to have an accent. I don't like having an accent, but whatever. So at that time, and you know, in those stadiums in Brazil or Europe, where football, as they say in Brazil, whatever, where they have those areas where the team runs out, right? So there's all these chairs, and the place where the team runs out, back to the locker rooms. Well, that's where we were warming up. I have no coach, so I'm just shadow boxing. I can't warm up any other way. Everyone has a coach, and I noticed it's all just very, very pretty Brazilian females looking down at all of us, because we're the top 16 in the world, apparently. Well, I don't know if I was yet, but I was number 16, I guess. So I walked over. One girl called me over. She said, Oi, gatinho, vem aqui. It means, by the way, hey, little kitten, come over here. But in a macho way. It's hard to translate that. But she said, hey, pretty boy. I used to be better looking than I am right now. But I was in good shape. I was 27 or something, 26. I walked over and she said, Oi, como você tá? She said, how are you doing? And because the thing is, there are certain – jiu-jitsu is such a big thing in Brazil. There are certain girls that will only date fighters. They will not date other guys. It's kind of how I think it's a different culture. And now, of course, UFC is getting popular here, jiu-jitsu as well. But back then, they called them Maria Tatami, which means mat maid. There were girls who would only date jiu-jitsu guys. So she thought I was Brazilian. And I went over there and she goes, hey, como você tá? Você é lindo. O que tá fazendo você? you're very hot. Hey, what are you doing? Now I should be focusing on the tournament. I should be, right? But at this moment, this girl is very, 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 very pretty. I went over and talked to her, and I said, "Oh, hey," my accent was much heavier in Portuguese back then. "Oh, eu estou bem, I'm good." And she goes, "Você é brasileiro? You're not a Brazilian?" I went, "No." She turned her back to me and rejected me. She called me over and then rejected me. That's messed up. I go, "Listen, focus on what's important." So I win the whole thing. And every time I win, it's like I get more applause, even from the Brazilians. And by the way, the Brazilians didn't know I spoke Portuguese. I could understand Portuguese at least. So all their words were not code words. They didn't say like use the yellow move. They were going like, okay, wait about 8 seconds and then go to your left, and then and I understood all that. Now they know, and they won't say that kind of open Portuguese. So I win the first, second, the third match. I see people that never smiled at me before or smiling at me, looking at me. I could feel the energy. I don't know why. Maybe I had a golden aura, as Eric Paulson said. So I win the end. I win. I actually win. I think I'm the first one to win an absolute final by submission. I think so. So I win, and the guy beat Alejandro Ferreira. It was very tough as well. And there's a line out the building around the block to meet me. And so people taking pictures, and hugging, kissing. Oh, hey, I'm there for like an hour and a half just meeting people. And the same girl, she waited to meet me. She's like this, "Hi, remember me? Hi, I knew you could do it. I believed in you. Eu acredito em você. Eu sabia que você pode ganhar." She says, "I believe that you could win. You met me before, right?" And she got up to me and I skipped her because I was so like, man. But that I use as a positive, because she said, "Whatever, you're nothing." Well, now I'm something. It's kind of weird. So I mean, that would crush most people's confidence. She called me over and rejected me, but now she wants to meet me. So whatever. It's just a case, human nature, male, female, whatever, straight. I don't. It doesn't matter what you are. Human nature. Use negatives. Use pressure to make you stronger. I think that's one of the biggest things to help me relax. A lot of pressure on me helps me relax for some reason.
So in I think the 2011, you got third in ADCC. Is that correct?
2011, I took gold. I beat.
Okay.
That was in England, but I took second in 2013 in China.
Right. And that was like kind of, you talked about, that was the one that Stuart Cooper did the documentary with you. Yeah. So what was different about that? Was that like, were you getting ready to retire around that time? Kind of what was different about you wanting to have fun at that tournament?
I could see things changing a little bit, but I still had 5 submissions that tournament. Every single match I won was a submission. It's kind of a high rate. It's 100% submission rate. The other Abu Dhabis I had was always 75% submission. And I never lost by submission in Abu Dhabi by points only. So I always looked like, okay. It's a weird thing I tell my students. I call, there's a loss, there's an L, there's a W, and there's a win. I guess there's a tie in the middle, okay? If you have a loss, that's by submission or knockout. And that's fine. It happens. It happens. Mm-hmm. No problem. If you lost, you lost. By the way, if you lose 15-0, you could say maybe that's a loss as well. Mm-hmm. An L is when it's close. Like, okay, 2-1, 3-1, even 5, whatever. That's all L. I mean, you lost, but it's an L. And a W means same. Like you won, but it's a W. If you won, though, it means you submitted the person. So I never officially, personally counted L's as a problem. Like, I didn't like them. I lost by 2-1 or something, or whatever. I never liked them, but for me, it was not a big problem. I wanted to focus on the wins. And so for me, that has caused me some L's because I'm going for, it's like a boxer going for the knockout. I'm going for like Mike Tyson. Well, Mike Tyson is hard to stop. Even nowadays, he's 50. Have you seen those videos of him?
Oh, man, he looks great
right now. Man, he's 53 or something. Come on, man. He's scary today. I'm saying that he's more like, and he goes after the kill. Okay, I'm a little more of a counter grappler. Like I'll go. And it used to work. Now it won't work. I would tell the Portuguese, "Hey, go for my feet. They're right here. I heard you have good footlocks." And guys will go for my feet and I'll footlock them, right? So they're playing. I make them play my game, right? Now it doesn't work now. Now it does not work. Or I'm not competing in a long time. So 2013 was just a weird year. I took second in my division. I took fourth in the absolute. It doesn't sound like that special, but I'm still top 4 in the world, ranked. I was 37 years old.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I lost to Keenan Cornelius, and I had a match with Bushesha right before that.
Mm-hmm.
Brutal match, 0-0 until it was like almost like overtime, and eventually I mounted him, but my foot was stuck in his leg, so I mounted on Bouchard, took him down. He turned to his stomach. I got one hook in. He fell to his back, so now I'm mounted on him, but one of my feet is stuck. I'm functionally mounted on him, but my foot's stuck. I don't get points yet. He is the one Brazilian that has the Olympic wrestler bridge, like a wrestler. I didn't know that. So I don't watch tape of my opponents because I want to focus on myself more than what my opponent can do to me. That was my mistake. So that was a lesson for me. I should have watched tape on Bushesha. He has that crazy athletic Olympic wrestler bridge. He bumped me over Upa, like from the mount. And he got 2 points for that because now my back's on the mat. And that's how he won. Actually, from there, I turned to my stomach to get out. He got back. So he actually won 5-0. But 30 seconds before that was 0-0. So we had an exhausting match, and that affected both of our in performances. But that was a good year, really. This was like fun. I was in Thailand. I went to Malaysia. I was in China. I was in Shanghai, Beijing. I had a great time, even though I lost. I was upset, but silver in Abu Dhabi at 37 is not too bad, not
awesome.
too bad. So I wasn't too bad, but it was a good year, a learning year in my opinion. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So silver at Abu Dhabi is not bad at any age.
No.
One question to ask you, because obviously you do have a high rate of submission. You're seen as a person that, always goes for the kill. And, you look at your matches just for a long time. You've always been an aggressive submission fighter. What do you think that's a cause of? Do you think that's a mindset? Do you think that's how you trained? Like, what do you think that is?
I always looked up to guys like Mike Tyson. By the way, he knew my name when I walked out of the cage one time in USC. Good fight, Mr. List. Man, I hung out with Mike Tyson 2 times, man. I always looked up to guys who, also met. He bought me a beer one time. Julio Cesar Chavez. And that guy, and I bought him a beer too. And I speak Spanish. I'm not as good as my Portuguese, but I'm fluent in Spanish. And talked to him, and he's like, he's very down to earth guy. Of course, he's retired at the time. This is back in like 2002 or something. No, 2005 or something. And I don't know. That guy has something like, 101 victories and like 2 draws and 1 or 2 defeats, something like that. But he has an 80% knockout ratio. And there's other people, I won't say names right now, but other people who are great, who have a record of like 50-0, right? But they have like a 40% knockout ratio. And that's incredible, by the way. Undefeated, okay? But I always preferred the guy who's a little more aggressive, take more chances. And by the way, that also, in the end of my career, hurt me because my shoulder got broken in a match. It was in Russia. Of course, when you get older, things happen. I was 39 or whatever at the time. But you can't do that forever. So I guess when you get older, you have to change your strategy. Of course, I know that now. Now I can't move my arm that well. My arm's just like this. By the way, it's because of it's a surgery. I had an infection in my shoulder it's not from jiu-jitsu. Well, the injury is, but I had an infection. So that's why I'm saying. I'm not saying if you do jiu-jitsu, you can't move your arm. I'm not saying that. But I changed my strategy over time. Yeah, that's do jiu-jitsu, it's healthy, okay? You don't get head trauma like
right.
Other fighters have had in the UFC. So over time, your strategy has to change. But 37 in China was a great year. Took silver. It's still a great time in my life. I look back upon.
When did you decide like maybe it was time to stop competing? I don't know if you officially like retired, but like as far as, high level competition, when did you decide maybe you wanted to move on to something else like coaching and those other things?
I still want to compete. I'm still going to compete if I get my shoulder taken care of. Because right now, and everyone knows it, it's the arm that Jean-G arm locked. And if it was in the gym, I would have tapped, you know. But it was like, man, it was Metamoris. And, you know, Jean-G's one of the greatest in history.
Mm-hmm.
It was a lot of pressure. That's my bad arm. I snapped my bicep with this arm in the UFC or in training before one of my fights in the UFC. Josh Barnett got this bad. I'm not making excuses. This is all just happened. It's all the abuse that happened to this one side of my body for whatever reason. So once I get this handled, maybe it's going to take a year because I need another surgery, and hopefully it won't get infected this time. And I'll come back, and that's going to give me the motivation to get even stronger than before. I might have a different strategy, maybe, but I never looked at stopping. Okay, at some point you stop competing. That makes sense, but that's not anytime real soon. Maybe in 10 years, you know. And I've always been fighting the young guys too. So at 37, I'm facing the guys who are 22. At 35, I faced one of the most incredible opponents I ever faced was Rodolfo Vieira, and I was 35. He was like 20, 21. But I don't like facing guys my age. No. I have no problem facing guys my age. I just feel like, I don't know why. Maybe that's just a challenge for me. But now I'm going to be more accepting of that, you know, facing. And the guys my age are no joke either. The Masters 1, Masters 2, and the Mundials, those guys are maniacs. They're very tough. They're very tough. We have a little more experience. So, yeah, I'm looking at competing when I can. Right now, if I competed, everyone knows my bad arm. And it would actually be an insult to my opponent. Because now they're in a situation of, okay, should I go for his bad arm and win? Or should I be the bigger man? And that's a weird thing. Like, I don't want to put that kind of predicament on my opponent. There was 2003, Jean-G had lost to him the first day. It was kind of like tied up until the points counted, then he steamrolled over me. It was. I took him down, he took me down, but then when the points counted, I made one critical mistake, and with him, you make one critical mistake, and it cost you the match. By the way, because of that one mistake, the next day, in the same side, same position, same move, I used it successfully against Pedapano, who was a Marcel Cruz, who was incredible heavyweight from Brazil, and I won because of this move. So literally, one mistake from one day became everything the second day. Interesting. So now, like, we look at Jean-G had a match in the Absolute versus Cacareco, the guy I faced in the finals. By coincidence, the next day, but he had Jean-G had an infection, a severe infection. He had a shin guard over this infection taped up, and Cacareco went for that bad leg and footlocked him. What if Jean-G didn't have an infected leg? Would it have been the same? I don't know. I don't want to leave that kind of uncertainty to anyone in their mind. If they go for my bad arm and they win, it's a cheap victory. Well, maybe it's not because it's a match. I don't know. I think it's almost disrespectful to my opponents to compete right now, of course, because I'm not asking for pity points, you know? Go for my bad arm. But soon it'll be my good arm, soon. So then I'll compete.
Are you, so if people kind of don't know, can you injured this arm a while, kind of some continuous injuries, then you finally decide to have surgery to get it corrected, and then you've had some issues since then?
Yeah, 2017, I had shoulder surgery, but it didn't set like something. I think it came unattached when I was sleeping. It didn't work. Went to Brazil 3 months ago, and I got the surgery done with a good doctor, by the way. It's just I got an infection, and so the guy did a good job. His name was Dr. Thiago from Brazil. He did a good job, a very thorough job, and the guy does jiu-jitsu, but he was a good surgeon. But you know, infections happen, but a serious infection. They even told me in Portuguese, you could lose your arm. That's a weird thing to hear as an athlete. What? Your arm? Well, because it was serious, and it was so close to my core. It's not like it was my finger, you know, it was my shoulder. My shoulder blew up to twice the size of normal, which sounds good to impress the ladies, I guess, but the way it looked, it wasn't that impressive. So it's filled with it's disgusting pus and blood and whatever. They cleaned it out first time, and then 5 days later, it swelled up again. They said it's more serious. They went in, they took out all the sutures and all the filaments and all the work of the surgery was ruined that second time they cleaned it out. So technically, I've had 4 surgeries on my right shoulder already. Technically, if you include the 2 times they cleaned it out. So I need a 5th one, but that's my last one. And if that doesn't work, I don't know what I'm going to do. But I'm going to get it done if I can soon, you know? So, I don't know.
What have you been doing? Like, you're obviously, well, I would think you're probably not training, but I don't know. Like, what have you been doing? How have you been kind of keeping yourself busy? You know, are you coaching? Kind of what have you been doing throughout this time?
That's what's driving me crazy a little bit, actually. There's really not much to do. Everyone's freaked out about proximity and, you know.
Are you guys still under heavy lockdown right now?
You know, because we're a jiu-jitsu gym, yes. There's a few restaurants open and they have like the tables spread apart.
Yeah.
And by the way, it's weird. You have to have a face mask to get in, but you can take it off when you sit down.
How stupid.
So,
it makes perfect sense. What are you talking about?
It's just so stupid. It's like if I saw that, like, where you see, like, we're not doing it here, but it's like in the common areas, you're supposed to have it on in some places. But then if you sit down at the table, then you can take it off. I'm like, what difference does it make if you're in the front lobby or if you're at your damn table?
Chewy, just follow the rules, man.
In my opinion, it's funny because there's like, in these days nowadays, it's like, you're Republican or Democrat. There's no middle. You're this or this. There's no. You believe in face masks, and you're a germaphobe, or you don't believe them, and you're reckless. You want to kill all the old people in the world. You want to see. There's no middle ground today. It's a weird time. Look, my personal opinion is, if you're coughing, you should stay at home right now. Okay, and you know what? I haven't seen my dad for a long time because of this. I'm going to hug my dad at this moment because, you know, he's older, right? So I think, like, if you're older, man, people, we should support them. But at this time, they should not be outside too much. I mean, they shouldn't. I'm not saying they can't, but they should not. I don't know. It's like this face mask thing to me. And once again, there's 2 camps, so someone's going to be probably offended I say this. And truly, we talked about before this started. Remember after 9/11 when they were like, okay, you can no longer bring a knife on a plane. Makes sense, right?
Right.
Okay, I understand. But you can't bring tweezers either. Okay, why? To make me feel safe? Okay, tweezers. Okay, come on, give me a break. This is BS. So for me, it's like this whole panic. But the magic solution is this little mask. Whatever. You know what? I'm sure they help in certain situations. You know, I'm in a crowded area. Okay, it makes some sense. But I don't know. It's just my opinion. People are going a little crazy on this stuff. I don't know. So that's the problem. In the state of California, you cannot be like within – so business – I guess technically we could have a gym open and have like every third boxing bag would be open.
Yeah.
You hit the bag separate. But that's not – it's not going to work, you know? So it's just how things go. And I'm not a fan of spreading the virus or whatever, but there's always going to be a next one. There's going to be a next one. There's going to be a next one.
Sure.
You know, there's things in the air that can kill you. How about in the ocean? You can get hepatitis. You can swim and get, like, you know what an algal bloom is?
Oh, yeah.
From lakes. There's some bacteria in that will kill you, right?
Yeah.
I'm not saying jump in that thing and breathe it in. I'm not saying that. No, don't swim in that water. Just don't do it. I would not say that. That's smart. But to stop everyone from going in the ocean in general because of algal blooms or because of what could be in the water, I mean, I don't know. You saw that video, they arrested that guy who was paddleboarding in the middle of a bay or a lake.
Oh, I didn't see that.
This is like 2 months ago. I forgot what state it was in. And there's a video of the guy. He's paddleboarding, and the police take a boat out and they arrest him off his paddleboard because he was out. He was out. Yeah, but that's the most social distancing you could possibly practice.
Right.
He's half mile offshore on a paddleboard. So in my opinion, I don't know.
But then you can have thousands of people get together and protest, and that's okay.
Yeah, there we go.
Right, but like if you want, like which I'm okay with protesting, but it's like if you're going to make it like that, if we can be together for this, then we can be together for this. Yeah, exactly. And it's funny you'll kill a small business, but like you say, oh, well, you can't have dinner at this place, but you can go out and be crammed next to 10,000 other people. And, you know, it's just silly. And like you said, there's no middle ground, right? Like, because it's so strange where on both sides, if you have any nuanced opinion about something where maybe you agree with it, like, but you have like a slight nuance to maybe the opinion, you're instantly being cast to one side or the other, rather than saying, well, maybe there's just different ideas on this thing. Maybe it's not exactly cut and dry and there's a lot of gray area. But it's silly.
No, I agree completely. This is a weird time we live in right now, you know, such as, okay, before this, these protests just happened, or they're still happening, or whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, there was a time a few weeks ago it was more heavy.
Sure.
But there were these counter protesters, the ones that were saying like, yeah, I don't believe, but they're saying, no, you're spreading the virus. It was a big thing on the news. So the people are irresponsible. But then, of course, the protesters are doing the same thing, and no one's saying anything about those things. And that's the right, as far as I'm concerned. In my opinion, people should respect people's rights to stay home, wear a mask, do whatever. And on the other side, you should respect the right or the idea that someone doesn't have to do that. Because what? How about this? When does a lockdown end? You could always say never. How about this? How about 2 weeks from now? No. We need more time. How about 2 months from now? There's still going to be the virus. It's still going to be around. It's still going to be around. And the hospitals are not overcrowded. They're not. Okay? So I don't know. It's just a weird thing. And I grew up in a weird area where we had bomb threats all the time.
Sure.
And the thing is, you still have to go to school. You have to go to work. Bombs, okay, you evacuate the building. You search a place with dogs, look for bombs. You take the precautions. This is my opinion. So jiu-jitsu hit really hard with this. And there's some people who just really, it's like the first real serious thing that's happened to them in their life. And it's scary for them, I'm sure.
Yeah.
And I don't want to get it. I might have had it in March. I'm not sure. Possible.
Yeah. Well, you know,
had it in March.
Well, you know, to me, it's like when you look at like some of the problems, like because this kind of stuff keeps happening like in cycles. It's gone like if you go back and look at like news stuff, this kind of thing has been going on for decades, right? So for me, when I look at a lot of the stuff that goes on in the media, and this is why I tell people, like, before you get all angry and start hating people, whatever, take a step back, do some digging and actually look at it, because it almost reminds me of like a comic book. Like when I was a kid, I used to collect comic books, right? So, you know, the X-Men might beat Magneto, but they don't actually kill Magneto. He just kind of goes away for a while, right? And then they go on to the next problem. And then later on, like next year, they'll bring out a new Magneto series where, you know, again, you look at like all the same problems that we're dealing with, that the politicians are talking about, that the media is talking about, everything from the virus to immigration to racism, all this stuff. It happened before. And they were talking about it. They said basically the same stuff from decades, presidents and whatever. And then it just keeps coming back. It's like watching Star Trek or something, and they bring back the bad guys from last season. All right, they're back now. We're here, and nothing really gets solved. We just kind of keep recycling them.
Hey, Chewy, remember the Ebola?
Oh yeah, Ebola.
That was the thing for like the Ebola. That's the thing is going to kill everyone. Okay, and guess what? I don't want to get Ebola. I don't want to get that. Okay, I agree. Watch that stuff, but that hysteria was hysteria, you know. So, and this is a little more. Well, it's not as deadly as Ebola, but it's more of a world thing, because Ebola is, thank God, has not spread as much. I mean, it's killed thousands and thousands of people in Africa.
Right.
God bless them. You know, I mean, there's areas in the world, and I've been to some of them where it's a daily thing to find water. To find clean water is a daily struggle. And people don't understand. Most people are like, what? You know, you take that for granted. Like, of course, clean water. I mean, even like Flint, Michigan, I mean, they have terrible water, you know. There's things like that. There's some people in the world. And you know what? There's places in the world, too, where you can get killed by a damn lion or a hippo. I mean, that's a legitimate, it's not, or crocodile, you know. That's a legitimate thing that people don't think about, really. There's people in the world that have it that hard, you know. And I know this corona thing is something you have to be wary about it, like wary about it, like be careful about it. But I don't know, it's just hard in our sport right now because there's proximity, and you can't. I did one seminar online with a grappling dummy.
Mm.
They were like, I don't know how many people watching. Their faces were all the screen. It was on Zoom. It was on. Okay, how long can you really do that for? You know,
Yeah.
I mean, you need a partner. And I don't know. I know lots of friends that have their little grapple group, like 5, 6 guys training in the garage right now. I know many friends that do that, and none of them are sick. But technically, that's illegal. Like, but no one's going to stop that.
Mm-hmm.
But you can't really do it at a gym. I heard of a few gyms that are open, but they're running a risk of getting an extreme fine. Extreme, maybe shut the business down for a long time. So I don't know. It's a weird time we're in right now. So right now I can't do too much. I can't exercise. I only have one arm, so I could do squats, I guess. I could go on a jog. That's about all I can do.
Yeah, I think some gyms, like, they're gonna lose their business even if they don't open. Yeah. So it's just like you're gonna lose it one way or another. But like I've realized, just the importance that jiu-jitsu has for me, physically, but also my mental health. Like, it gives me that outlet that I've needed, that I've had for so many years. You've trained much longer than I have. I trained for about 12 years. And it's just like I wasn't just the same person. Like, I'm not as patient. I wasn't as kind of, I don't even say open-minded. Like, I was just very much like on a shorter fuse. So I think for me, like, if you are responsible, you take the precautions. Like, if you can get people, make sure, like, if you're sick, stay home. If you've been around people that are sick, stay home, that kind of thing. Common sense. I think hopefully, people can do it in a safe way. And I feel like it has been shown to do that in some places.
No, I do agree.
Yeah.
Especially when we don't know what it is really. Okay. I was 2 months in Brazil. I was in Brazil for 2 months in lockdown with a lovely lady who I would love the rest of my life. Sweet girl. So I actually didn't have a bad time in Brazil in lockdown. For me, it wasn't that bad. But then I had surgery. That was kind of was the problem. So yeah, I agree. There's a reason to do it. It's just that right now I don't know. I'm not sure. Anyways, let's move on from this subject because everyone's talking about it everywhere.
For sure.
People get offended on both sides. Yeah. Someone's going to be upset about what I just said about wrong.
Yeah.
Always. And here's the thing. Here's the thing. And this is something I was thinking about because we've gotten back a little bit to training in like a smaller capacity. And man, one of the coolest things, and this from training, is that you get surrounded by such a wide variety of people training. And like, you get to talk face to face, and it's kind of neat where, when you train with someone, it cuts through a lot of the bullshit that we separate each other by, right? Like, cause it's like when you come in, it's like, I don't care what kind of car you have. I don't care what kind of house you have, what religion you have. All we're like, do you want to train? That's it. Right. Yeah. And it's such a cool thing because I feel like one of the problems is just like you said with being offended or everybody's on these different sides throwing rocks at the other side. You come into a place where you have a common connection with someone that transcends all that stuff. And you get to realize that, like, hey, look, they have a different opinion than me, but they're cool. Like, they live in a different part of town than me, but they're cool, and you get this sort of understanding. And so for me, I feel like if more people had shared experiences like that were not something that was, like I said, it wasn't dictated by a friggin' political argument. If they had something that kind of transcended that, to me, would be better because everybody's been stuck on social media talking to each other through a screen. And I think it's been one of the coolest things to come back and actually talk to humans face to face and have a big bunch of people where we can chat about stuff and not hate each other if we're on a different side of the argument. Especially, you look at like something like racism. Man, who I'm not saying he did, but he might have saved my life in England was Rampage Jackson. He's my brother, man. So some guys, I think they wanted to stab me. And this is over an altercation that happened in line. I didn't really it wasn't like I wanted to fight anyone. It was, we got in line in front of them and they were upset. And they were not from England. They had a heavy accent, but they had trench coats on. And we were in Manchester, England. And UK has a high knife problem for some reason. Well, it's harder to get guns. Yeah, I don't know guns. But a knife will kill you too, right? So these three guys were they followed me and they were standing behind me. We didn't know their names. We saw them outside and they were angry that we got in front because we were Mike Bisbee. We got right in front of the line. They were upset by that. So why would three guys follow me and stand behind me? Rampage saw that, came up and like scared them, and they left. Okay, so they came over and they left. Okay, so it's kind of, they had some bad intentions. So
I'm not sure, but man, that's my brother, man, really. So if I fought every race of man you can imagine, and there's tough guys all around the world, Once you've shared blood with people that don't look like you, I mean, that's not even a thought in anyone's mind. I've never seen it on the mat, actually. I've never seen it one time. If it has happened, I've never seen it, okay?
Mm-hmm.
So these kind of sports where you share some suffering and some growth together, I think that makes you grow. It's a growth, right, as a human being. I think that's a very healthy thing about jiu-jitsu. And Lovato Jr. said it really cool, which makes sense. He said on the mat you could have a guy who served some time in prison training with a cop, maybe, right? A doctor training with a kid from high school. You could have some girl who's a marathon runner training with someone else who's a lawyer or something, right? So you have all these different walks of life, and we have this one thing in common. We do this sport. Other sports are great, but the intimate contact and the one-on-one type of thing about our sport, I think that's what's special. Boxing is also similar, but boxing you get a lot of head trauma. Mm-hmm. So we don't get the same amount of head trauma. You learn, you get stronger, you get functional strength, and I think overall that's one thing really cool about jiu-jitsu, in my opinion.
Yeah, shared suffering. I think that's a big part of it, right? Like, you know, I remember my grandfather. He was like a farm boy from Missouri, and he told me that like he had never seen a black guy until he got into the military. He was born in like the 1920s, whatever. And I remember that when he was in there, I remember growing up, and you know, he was not a racist guy. And I remember him telling me about how when he was in the military, he'd never met a black guy before. He meets one, and they're basically in Vietnam together doing all this crazy stuff. And he's like, you know, after that, it's kind of hard to think that way because those dudes saved me from so many times and I saved them from so many times, and it cuts through that BS that you normally would have. So, you know, luckily I got to grow up in kind of that kind of environment.
Yeah, understood. I agree
suffering.
Completely.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's doing something difficult that, like, I think jiu-jitsu is not something you can't buy jiu-jitsu. Like, you can't, I mean, I guess, quote unquote, you can possibly buy a black belt, but like, honestly, it's earned, right?
Someone's bought one, right?
You know, you could right now get a lot of money and buy a nice trophy. You could buy the nicest trophy for whatever reason and just have it. But what does it mean? Right?
Exactly. Like you know that it's earned, right? Like that thing is suffering, it's sweat, it's blood. Like, you know that you share that common thread of jiu-jitsu with them, like that common struggle. They've been there. If somebody's got a black belt, they've been through struggle.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Very true. Very true. Very true. Very true.
Yeah. Dean, just quick, man, like, are you kind of surprised at all, like, as far as jiu-jitsu goes, you know, when you started to now, are you surprised kind of how it's exploded, the popularity of it, you know, and especially like the leg lock game and all that stuff, which, you know, John Donner gave you some credit for being one of the guys that really pushed that along. Like, are you surprised by any of those things?
You know, I'm impressed. It's gotten to a whole new level right now. The things, the move, I call the 411, for instance, or the 50-50, which when I did it wasn't, people were actually angry at me for that, actually. But now it's become the 50-50 guard. Once again, I'm not saying I invented this thing. I'm the first person. No, I'm not saying that. Someone's done it before me 1,000 years ago. But for whatever reason, at the highest level of competition, I pulled it off. I think that opened people's eyes. And now it's more advanced than things I have done, you know? There's things that I saw that, oh, this is a new move. But I've been doing that for a long time. But now there's new moves. I'm like, wow, I never seen that before in my life. You know, so people, the world is such a huge place. Dynamic people involved, such as Donner. Very, very smart people, very creative. I think it was Einstein that said, what is it? Intellect is important, but more important is imagination, you know? So some people can be very smart, not have a big imagination. And some people can have a big imagination and not have a high intellect. So I see now the combination of imagination and intellect and this ingenuity and these new things come along. It's incredible. So I like seeing it. I think that now the jiu-jitsu is at the highest level ever, and I'm sure it's going to increase. When I was younger, it was more brutal. I mean, you could, if you looked at a tournament, you would have blood on your gi. It was fine. That was, of course, dried up blood. It was like brown, but it was blood sprinkled or drops or blood smears. And that was a tough guy usually. You could tell by looking at someone's gi if they have blood stains on their gi. Like, I had blood stains all over my gi. So that's but now you can't compete in that gi because it's unsanitary. I understand, it makes sense, but when I was younger, it was more crude, And like I said, hand wraps. Gloves were kind of like they were strongly encouraged. But I'm saying right before that, people were fighting bare knuckle. They do still. It's just things change over time. They get smarter. Like now they changed the rules in football where you're not hitting head to head as much. One of my heroes, Junior Seau, committed suicide, unfortunately. And they made that movie Concussion about him. You saw the movie Concussion?
I haven't seen it, but I saw the previews for it.
It's about him based on his life. I met him one time and he was a great guy, but the head trauma just he couldn't come back from that. So football is getting smarter and faster, right? Boxing is getting smarter and faster. It's not as brutal as it was before. And jiu-jitsu is also getting stronger, more technical. And we're not – I'm actually glad that people have clean gis now or clean kimonos. Yeah. It's actually a good thing. It's not a bad thing. It's just funny to compare the two times, right? It's just interesting. Yeah. So I like how it's going. I'm just not a big fan of advantages. And I don't know. I disagree. I don't like certain things of the rules, but that's all. That's all it is. Everything else I like, actually.
Gotcha.
Yeah, man. I agree with the blood on the gi. That was how I kind of used to like break mine in. I was like, yes, there's blood on it. But yeah, dude, it's been a blast talking to you. For me, man, you're one of I consider you one of the greats of jiu-jitsu as far as I'm concerned. Like I grew up watching you, dude, and gained a lot just for sometimes I'd watch a match for inspiration, or even I remember I was trying to do the knee bar and I actually learned how you were getting the spring going. From your seminar, but I remember trying to do that just from like watching it. And I'm like, I'm going to go in the gym and try that because it looked cool. So I appreciate you being on the podcast with us. If anybody wants to find you, this may be post lockdown, so they might even want to come train and see what you got going on.
Yeah.
Where can people find you online and offline?
Best way is just Instagram, Dean Lister, DJJ. That's the best way right now. We're looking at a few things to do online. We're looking at that. But right now, everyone's looking at how, and it's kind of hard. But we'll find a way, and we'll get through this, and we'll be fine. This will be something in the history books and whatever. It's going to pass, So
for sure.
You got some product out, man, like a couple of instructionals as well?
Yeah. You go to BJJ Fanatics. They have my Catch series, KATCH, which is knee lock, ankle lock, toe hold, calf slice, compression, and heel hook. So it's not catch wrestling, but it's catch. It's a style of getting legs, and it's it's an approach to how to grab legs and finish them. It's not the jumping, reverse, upside down, inverted. It's simple and it gets advanced, and so we're looking at an approach to combine this with your regular grappling game, not just rely only on leg locks. So that's something we've had out for I think about 2 years, and it's done pretty well so far.
Awesome,
cool, brother.
Man, it's been honestly for me. You've been for sure, like Chewy said, you're one of the guys. Like especially as far as Americans go as well in the sport, one of the guys that really paved that path for success in jiu-jitsu, and just appreciate everything you've done, man. Thank you for taking the time.
Thanks, my pleasure, brothers. My pleasure. We'll do it again sometime, okay?
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thanks, Dean. Yeah, I don't know if you guys like listened to the beginning of the podcast, you would have heard me put on my like radio voice. Hey,
you're not too bad at that.
Yeah, no, I can do some voices.
You want to do voices?
Hey, by the way, how I forgot to ask you, how was Dean's Russian accent?
Was it typical? Is like somebody that does a Russian accent. Somebody that does. I wanted to have him. I don't think he knew I was Russian either.
I know, that's why I wanted to ask him. Like he did a Russian accent, and you're Russian.
It's okay. Not
it's
bad.
Okay, yes.
It's not so bad. Yeah. It's really, listen to my dad talk, you'll know. Like Oleg Taktarov's got a pretty good Russian accent.
Yeah.
Obviously. Who I want to have on the podcast, by the way.
Oleg Taktarov.
I want to have him on. He's like, dude, he's the Russian bear. He's the guy that got me interested in the UFC, honestly.
Yeah, yeah.
Like after UFC 6, then I started going back. Because we got that one because it was the Russian bear or whatever.
Russian guy.
My dad got that one specifically probably because of Oleg Taktarov. Because he had ended up winning. I don't know if they put it on the VHS cover, like, but they probably said featuring so-and-so. So I think he got that one initially. And then we started going back and then going forward. Kind of went back to see like, oh, Hoist Gracie. Who's this dude? I think first, that was UFC 6, and then I think I saw UFC 2 maybe, or whichever, because I know he was not in one of them. It wasn't in 3, I believe.
Who, Hoist?
Hoisted 1, 2, and 4, I believe.
I think 1, 2, and 4. Maybe that's right. Yeah. Something like that. 1, 2, 3, and 5 or something. I can't remember.
There was one that he didn't do.
Because I know he went. I think because I thought the third one.
Did he go to Japan or something?
I thought the third one he was going to go up against Chemo. I think it was UFC 4. He wasn't there. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the podcast. You know, it was a fun one for me. Again, like that's a geek out moment because I'm talking to Dean Lister, who I grew up watching when I first started. Like when I first got into it, he was in the 80 cc's in 2003 getting after it. And for me, I would like I was talking about, I would watch his matches and some of his matches, and I would try to do those moves and mimic what I could with what I knew. But again, I hope you guys enjoyed that one. That was a great one. And again, just a big thanks to our sponsors again, guys. If you want to get yourself some top quality CBD product to give a run, again, my thing is, I tried Charlotte's Web, and I'm one of these people. I'm usually skeptical. That's not a word. I'm making stuff up. Skeptical. Why can't I? Skeptical. There we go. Skeptical. We have to have Chewy enunciate words today.
Speaking a lot today.
The Chewster can't talk today. So skeptical about the stuff, and I started taking the products, and I liked them. I really liked them. And I've been a believer since. So if you want to take the test, you can go charlottesweb.com, use promo code jiu-jitsu, save 15%. I guess we've never had 13%. What the hell's wrong with me?
13%. It's a special. It's a special deal.
Oh my god. Let's see if we can get through these other ones here, huh? Hopefully I don't mess this up for Matt. Matt runs epicrollbjj.com.
He sells stuff.
Sells some stuff that you could save some percentages on. No, seriously, he's got some cool designs. If you want to check them out, they're simple, they're interesting. And again, from being a jiu-jitsu guy that's in the jiu-jitsu community, not just someone that's like, some random schmuck like printing gis and stuff. Like, because I mean, it does go on. You guys may not know this, but there's some people that like there's some gi companies out there that like, I don't know who runs them, because like they'll send me messages and stuff, and they're like where are gis? I'm like, who are you? I don't know who you are. You're not a part of our community. You're like looking at it like, I think I can make some money.
Right.
I don't like that. He's one of the dudes within the community. So if you want to check out some of his stuff, just browse. Just check out some of his stuff. If anything strikes your fancy, you can use the promo code Chewjitsu, save 15% on the order, and that's epicrollbjj.com. And again, guys, if you want to check out and support the Patreon, or check out the Patreon to support the podcast, you can go to patreon.com/the Jiu-Jitsu Podcast, and in there you can save,
depending on the month,
you can save a couple cents. Like in July, there's more days, but for less than a quarter every month, for less than a quarter a day, you can get access to a vault of information, like literally just hundreds of pieces of content, everything from audio clips and videos and stretches and seminars, everything. So just go through and dig into it if you want to, and it'll support the podcast so we can keep bringing episodes to you like this and having butchered outros like today where I'm literally butchering everything.
It's great. This is one of your best.
Oh, thank you.
I really enjoy it.
Thank you so much, Eugene.
Watching perfection.
But perfection cannot be reached because we're always improving, right?
Can you not?
Yeah.
Just take it. It's perfection.
Don't tell me to take it. How dare you? How dare you tell me to do that?
You got so offended by that.
I did. I got super offended.
Oh man,
very offended.
I want to choke you.
I'm a very
right
thin.
now.
I'm a thin-skinned human being.
You are.
I have a
fragile.
I'm fragile. Did
you hear what I just said? I just threatened you.
What did you say?
I wanted to choke you.
That was a microaggression.
That was a macroaggression.
I consider it micro.
Well, yeah, because stop it.
Because if you try to come over, I whoop that ass.
Okay. All right. There's some truth in that. I'm not going to take it just lying down, Chewy. I'm not going to take it.
Bet you're not, yeah. All right, guys. On that note, this thing's getting silly. I enjoy doing these. I meant to say I thank you guys for being here today.
Thank you all.
I enjoyed having you guys here for the podcast. I'm glad that the podcast with Dean was really amazing. please don't, if this is your first time on the podcast and you're listening to this outro, don't let this outro that's been butchered like dictate how you feel about this podcast. Go back to when we were talking to Dean Lister, because that's really what it's all about.
Just rewind the whole thing and just listen to it all over again.
That's right.
Perfect.
All right. Talk to you guys next time.